We've had a fantastic session this morning with speaker and coach Pete Wilkinson on how to create the world's best one-page action plan. So Pete, you've obviously got this whole 3.5-hour workshop on how to create a one-page action plan. So clearly to have an action plan is really important. Why is it really important?
I think the main reason I find it's important is that most people have an idea what they want and they're performing at a fairly good level, and there's some great guys in all the groups. But for me, it's answering the question that if I was the very best version of myself, what could I achieve? And I think once you answer that question, you're only going to get that or achieve that by having some sort of plan. And if it's on one page, you're more likely to do something with it.
And how do you start? What's the first process?
The first step really in the whole process is looking at where you are now in terms of how effective you are, looking at your habits, and then looking at any challenges, which is almost like interference. So we kind of try to get people to be conditioned before we build a plan.
Okay.
So once that's done, then we can start building the plan.
And you mentioned habits. Mm-hmm. What's important about the habits?
The important thing about the habits is that without realising, we formed habits and we do lots of things that's habitual. So if you have a residence of office where you always drive to, you probably drive the same way. And that's great if it's working for you. But for me, improving and refining your habits is a really easy way to become more effective. And one of the things we talk about is building successful habits on a consistent basis, which I suggest at least once a quarter, build a new successful habit.
Okay. And what would you say are the top 3 habits that you've seen in business owners? What habits have they developed to ensure that they do act on their action? Okay.
So I would say, yeah, I mean, if we look at the last 20 months, I've probably been in front of about, 1,500 business owners, for example. And I think the main 3, and there's lots of them, there's 8, I've kind of summarised the 8 main ones, but the top 3, the first one's focus.
Okay.
Second one's exercise and kind of energy, having that vitality. And the third one is a habit around the coaching and development of their people.
Right.
So the focus one is the main one because most people aren't focused enough. And one of the reasons for that is they're trying to do too much. So the habit is about achieving more by focusing on less and developing that as a habit that you have finite periods of focus where you can produce a great result. So I think that's the main one.
Okay.
The exercise one is that because for some people, we want to try and achieve a great deal and we sometimes have to work long days. And if you have a high level of energy and you're fairly healthy in your approach, and I'm not talking about being super fit, but I mean having the right food and the right nutrition and water, etc. So getting yourself in a healthy condition, doing things habitually to help that, will give you the energy to work effectively throughout the whole of the day. So not this 3 o'clock slump that some people have. I think the last one to do with the development of the team, I remember something from Stephen Covey that said, with people, fast is slow and slow is fast. So I think people are now starting to realise the need more to coach their teams, certainly their senior teams, to upskill them. So the habit of building in habitual coaching sessions within the working week, I'm seeing people having great benefits from. So upskilling your senior team to allow you to focus on more strategic stuff.
Okay, so once you've got an idea of the vision and the habits that you're going to need to develop, what's the next stage?
So once you've got a vision of where you want to be, and I mean time frames really should be, for me, normally 1 to 3 years. You could go 5 years. Once you go beyond that, it gets a bit hazy. But once the vision's identified and you know where you want to be in a certain time frame, you need to then prioritise some objectives, and I call them core objectives, and I suggest 3. Okay. And the reason we need 3 is because most people are focusing on too many things. Most people watching this will probably have far too many projects at 65% complete. They'll be spinning far too many plates and they'll have lots of days finishing the day thinking, where am I at? Because the focus is too wide. So having 3 core objectives, mission critical objectives, priorities if you like, this is what I should be focusing on at least 80% of the week. If they do that, they'll make more progress by having a tighter focus.
So narrowing down on that focus, so it is mission critical.
It is we call them core objectives because you should be spending the majority of your time as a business owner on the core things.
Okay.
Beneath that, we then have the goals. So we suggest 5 goals for each core objective to allow us to get momentum on side. These goals are not massive stretches, they're just stepping stones, because success is sequential. So if you've got the steps laid out and you can see the next step, it's easier to take the next step.
Okay.
So the whole thing, the one crystal clear vision, the 3 core objectives, and then the 5 goals for each objective is a great way to get momentum and build what I call the world's best one-page action plan.
Brilliant. And how often should that one-page action plan, once complete, be reviewed?
If you're doing it for a period of 3 years, I would suggest having a master one for 3 years. And if your business is growing at a fair rate, sort of above 15, 20% a year, I would suggest you then have an action plan for the next 12 months. I would then suggest using the 12-month action plan on a weekly basis to check in with it, ideally on a Monday and Friday. So start the week by looking at the plan, familiarise yourself with where you're going, remind yourself of what are the objectives and what are the goals, get that set out, get kind of like a start of week routine if you like, and then start your week. And then Friday, finish the week by looking over it. I think that habit of starting well and finishing well enables you to make more effective progress.
It's a great idea, thank you. And just to finalise, have you got some successful clients that you're able to share who have implemented the one-page action plan and how that's impacted their business? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, you know, from large businesses, we've had engineering companies that have gone from 130 million to 170 million over 24 months, working with the HR department on how to build that. At a smaller end of the scale, we've had sports tour companies that have grown 35% a year every year for 4 years. We've had stationary businesses put an action plan in place and grown their sales by 160% in the previous year. And I've had a micro guy who's improved their cash flow by 423%. So the idea being that once you understand where you're going, communicate how you're going to get there, what to focus on, and then what are the steps needed, it's a really easy way to get those sort of results.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Pete. That's been really valuable.
Thank you.